Notre Dame is built on faith, tradition, and quads.
Quads are wide open spaces where friends connect, relax, and walk together.
That's the spirit of the Pod Quad Show.
2 Holy Cross priests,
Good friends,
great guests,
talking about life.
Welcome to the Pod Quad. I'm Father Nate Wills.
And I'm Father Pete McCormick.
And today, we're joined by a Notre Dame professor who believes that the work of educating the heart and mind extends beyond the classroom, as she's helping empower communities and change the world. Wendy Angst is a teaching professor at the Mendoza College of Business and the director of the Powerful Means Initiative. Before she was winning favorite professor awards and becoming well known for her impactful What Would You Fight For video, Professor Angst was a pioneer and entrepreneur in healthcare technology. But what guides her work at Notre Dame's business school isn't simply her expertise in design thinking. It's a passion to help empower others to become their best selves. Through Wendy's work, Notre Dame students have been deeply involved in building up St. Bakhita's Vocational Training Center in Uganda. Through this work and so much more, Wendy doesn't just teach her students how to succeed, she teaches them how to serve others as Jesus taught us. Professor Wendy Angst, welcome to the Pod Quad.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh, we've been waiting for this for a really long time. Could you talk us a little bit about what it is that it took to come to Notre Dame and why it is that you find yourself here now?
All right. Well, I came to Notre Dame initially because I was a trailing spouse. So my husband, Corey, who will have been married for 29 years next week.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, was hired in on the tenure track at Mendoza. So I initially came with him. But at the time, I was still working for a startup company on the East Coast and traveling a lot back and forth. My daughter, Lily, who is a freshman here this year, was 1 at the time. And I found out I was expecting my son, Caden, the weekend we moved into our home here. Yeah, so so that's how I ended up here. But one of my early mentors was our former Dean of Mendoza, Dean Carolyn Wu. And yeah, I just really admired the way she was balancing her work, the commitment to her faith and her commitment to the Notre Dame community and students with being a mother. And so I had talked with her a few times around just like, how do you do this? And what's the secret? And I had shared with her that I had always had an interest and a passion in teaching. And she had said, well, you should explore that someday. And I'm like, well, how do I do that? So long story short, I was afforded the opportunity to teach when I was pregnant with my third and youngest child, Gianna. So I taught my first class the last trimester of pregnancy. And so I really grew as a professor and grew as a professor. But all 3 of my kids were C-sections, so I was able to schedule her birth the last day of my class and be back in the classroom for spring semester. Yeah. So that's part one. The other piece that I just want to share is I've always been a big believer in just kind of being intentional around your journey and goals that you have. So in my early 20s, another mentor that I had got me started on this notion around thinking about your life journey and what are the steps that you need to take to make sure that you're having the impact that you want to have and living true to your values. And so I wanted to share with you that I brought along a copy of a life journey map that this one's dated 2008, but it goes beyond that. But on the journey map, you can see there's 3 horizontal lines, and one is really around your kind of personal life, your faith, your friends, your family, and the other is your career. So how are you, following your path and leaning into service and education? And I had on here that by the time I'm in my 40s, I'd like to invest more time in volunteering to help women. By the time I'm in my 50s or 60s, I'd like to be a professor or just do all volunteer-oriented work. And that in my 50s, I would launch something around a Designing Your Life course. So only at Notre Dame do all of those things have the opportunity to come true. So, so that's how I ended up here.
That is amazing.
Well, I have one more follow-up question.
Yeah.
On that map somewhere is that one day I'd like to be on the Pod Quad.
Absolutely.
Anywhere?
Yeah, it's on there every year. It's just been a reoccurring
Very
thing.
small print.
Very, very fine
Very
print.
So I'm so glad I can check that off my list. Thank you.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, it's so
Yeah.
intentional. I don't even know what I'm doing later on today.
I'd love to follow up on this though,
Yeah.
in all seriousness. how, that could be a really overwhelming thing to try to put together.
Yes. Yes.
So how did you even start? Like, how do you think about that?
Yeah.
Because oftentimes people are just making it day to day, and to be able to have the discipline and the vision to be able to step back and look out and say, yeah, these are the things that I generally would like to be able to work towards. Like, what was that like?
Yeah, so I do this intentionally a couple of different ways with students here.
Yeah.
And one, every class that I've ever taught, the past 15 years I've been here, I have a professor's choice lecture at the end of class where I challenge students to think about their life on kind of 3 different paths.
Yeah.
And one is, what is the path that you're pursuing if you graduate with Notre Dame with a degree and do what you thought you would do? And then thinking about if that did not exist, what might be another path that you would take? And then the third path is looking at if money was no object, or if you were just completely leaning into a calling or kind of a service project that you wanted to do, what would that look like? And so mapping out these different journeys and then thinking about what would it look like to pursue those, and how do I balance that with the way I want to show up as a friend, a daughter, a son, a spouse, just thinking about what are the things that you need to keep in mind on those paths, and how do they complement and compete with one another? And I always talk about the fact that this isn't saying that this is the path that you're taking no matter what. This is, I say, a parking place for dreams, right? You put a lot of things down. And so, my dream of being on this pod quad has finally come true. But one of my dreams that has not yet come true is being fluent in Italian. I bump that out every year, and I've been bumping it out for 25 years now. So at some point, maybe it'll happen. But yeah.
You and me both, Wendy. That's on my list too.
Is it?
Yeah.
Well, see, you do have a list then.
Well, kind of.
You just have to get on the journey map.
So you talked about service, and one of the things that we're really interested in hearing about is your work with St. Bakhita's in Uganda.
Yes.
Can you paint us a picture of this what's been this partnership that's been described as a lab for education, an epicenter for innovation, an accelerator for generational change for women?
Yes, happy to talk more about that. So I first learned about St. Bakhita's when I was teaching my innovation and design course in spring of 2020. Another project with a large banking firm had just kind of not come to fruition. And I had heard about that school. And again, kind of leaning back to the journey map, I'm like, this might be God's way of saying it's time. You can get involved in this type of project work. So I was afforded the opportunity to travel with 10 Notre Dame students over that spring break. And we were using it as a time to kind of test out our ideas, get feedback on some of the early innovations we were looking at to try and think about how this vocational school that originally had been opened in 2007 for young women and girls that had been abducted by the LRA, by 2020 it was on the verge of closing. Western aid had dried up, and there just wasn't the support there in this really impoverished region. So we were focused on how do we help this vocational school continue to stay open and serve the community. But I would tell you that when we arrived on the ground, our perspectives, well, I would just say we did a lot of work, had a lot of conversations, read a lot, watched as many documentaries as we could. But when you're on the ground, it just gives you that different opportunity to really be a part of the lives and just the environment and how things are happening on the ground. So the poverty rate in this part of Uganda is well over 70%. People live in mud huts. They don't have running water or electricity, and education is very rare to come by. So I would say we returned really committed to not just giving a recommendation and walking away, but continuing to walk with the people in Uganda to implement these ideas. So we were really fortunate through the work that we were doing that semester. We had a student, Victoria Nyanjura, pursuing her master's in peace studies over at KIO. Victoria herself had been abducted by the LRA as a young girl and held captive for 8 years. And she became just a really great friend and mentor to me through this work, and then ended up stepping into the role of head of school. So the school, like every school, our school included, closed for COVID, and we reopened the school in November of 2021 with Victoria as our head of school. And I would tell you that the students that were on that first trip, over half of them continue to still stay engaged in that work. And we've had over 100 Notre Dame students travel to St. Bakhita so far since this project began. And, the first student project we launched was planting 22,000 trees to help with sustainability and food insecurity. So that's been a really awesome project. We've done a project with the architecture students where they helped design a restaurant for us that supports hospitality training and gives the community a great place to gather and actually watch TV. We have TVs installed, so that's been great. And they've also helped build an early childhood development center. So the women that come to our school, it's a boarding school for learning a vocation. When they bring their children with them, we have a center now where their kids can also receive an education. So that's just two of the many of well over 20 projects that students have worked on that we've been implementing at the school to really help with our goals of ensuring this school can be self-sustaining, supporting the young women to have the opportunity to thrive, and then improving the economic prosperity of the region.
Wonderful.
Now, Nate and I know this, so this is more for those who are engaging in this podcast. What is the LRA? What does it stand for?
The Lord's Resistance Army. So that was a conflict just a horrific conflict where the mode of operation of Joseph Kony was to abduct children. And so the estimates are well over 60,000 children had been abducted to serve as soldiers or be wives for the soldiers. So it's just a really horrible conflict that, wasn't that long ago that it ended. And so the after effects of that war in this region have just really been heavy and difficult to move through. And so it's a region of such beautiful, faith-filled people. Like across the board, every student that I've taken there kind of leaves with this renewed sense of just optimism around the importance of life isn't about your things, right? It's about the community and the people that you're with and your faith. But yeah, they've had to overcome a lot, and just the joy and the welcoming nature of being in that community. I just wish that everyone would have an opportunity to experience it. It's really, really special.
So you anticipated my next question, which is, can you walk people through the journey from South Bend, Indiana to St. Bakhita's? And then what have been some of the reactions upon making that journey and then falling in love with that community?
Yeah, so the journey from South Bend to St. Bakhita's is not a quick one. Yeah, we have had, I've always preferred just not to track it, but I did have one savvy student one time turn on her timer when we pulled out from the main circle, and it was 38 hours to door to door.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a pretty long flight, and then once we land on the ground, it's a 10-hour drive north. Our school is almost up to South Sudan, so up in the Agago district of Uganda. But I would say when we arrive, at the school, we are always greeted by the students with this beautiful African dances. They'll meet us as we come through the gate and escort us, doing the Ugandan shrill that I have not yet mastered, also on my life journey map.
That was not on mine. Not yet.
Not yet.
Maybe after.
I don't know.
Yeah. But I would say, and I did bring along, I printed out just because I knew that you were going to ask me about that, but a couple of letters, because the students write the most beautiful letters. But one reads that this was to one of the families that supports the ability for our students to travel there cost-free as a part of this immersion. But I wanted to say thank you so much for your generosity to make this trip possible. Being able to go to Uganda and visit Janet and Julian, who I had been working with all semester in class, is a moment that I will hold on to forever. I have never been able to be immersed in a culture before with people that I care so much about. Being able to set foot at the school and physically see and feel the impact that Notre Dame is bringing to the community is life-changing. And then one other one that I want to share, just because I thought you would appreciate it, is I want to express my heartfelt gratitude for granting me the opportunity to be a part of the immersion team that journeyed to Uganda during fall break. The experience has been nothing short of transformational for me. To be completely honest, prior to this excursion, I was facing spiritual struggles. It was during this time at St. Bakhita's that I found my faith rekindled. The unwavering courage, faith, and resilience exhibited by these remarkable women left an indelible mark on my heart. Initially, I thought I would be the one teaching and assisting them, but in reality, I ended up learning so much more from them and rekindling a profound spiritual boost through our interactions. Once again, I want to express my deepest appreciation for making this journey possible.
That's incredible.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Wow.
That must make your heart sore.
Oh, it absolutely does. Yeah, yeah. And what's been so beautiful about that, this work has really benefited from a group, we call them our Powerful Means Circle, but, former parents of students that have been in this class, just individuals that have heard about this work, and they reach out and they mentor the students with different projects and just make themselves available and, join student presentations a couple of times a year. So it's really, our entire Notre Dame family. And aside from them, I've been so blessed to benefit. I know, Father Nate, I've tapped your shoulder a couple times for feedback on ACE education. Chrissy Trinter, Neil Boothby, Paul Brenner, Amory Conrado, there's been so many faculty across the university that just kind of jump in and help when needed, because there's, a lot happening with this partnership and a lot of different ways that students want to engage that aligns with their interests. So it's been really just beautiful to see the entire community coming together.
Right on.
It's funny you mentioned Chrissy, because I was thinking that you're not only mentoring these women in Uganda, but you're also really intentional about mentoring young women here at Notre Dame. And I just think you're a great example of somebody who's just being so thoughtful about helping women on their professional trajectory. And people like Chrissy Trinter over at the Institute for Educational Initiatives. I mean, I think about Kathy Cummings over in American Studies and History, Sarah Leapshire in Development. I mean, some of these people, Sonia Howell over in Notre Dame Learning, these are women at Notre Dame who are being so intentional about mentoring other young women and helping them to grow in their vision and in their careers. How do you find the time? Why do you carve out the time to do that amidst all of the other things that you have to do, all the other time crunches and stuff that you have in your life and career?
Well, I would just say thank you, first of all, for putting my name among those really fantastic women. That's really an honor. But I would say it's such a privilege to be here at Notre Dame and engaging with our students. I truly mean it, that it gives you hope in the world when you have an opportunity to really engage with our young people here. So two parts to that answer I'd like to give. One, kind of going back to the fact that, Carolyn Wu was one of my early mentors, but she actually became a mentor for me even before we agreed to move our growing family to Notre Dame. Corey had interviewed on the tenure track, and so pretty low on the totem pole when it comes to academic recruitment. He's a special guy, but what really struck me is one day I was driving back from work. I was just outside of Philadelphia. My cell phone rang, didn't recognize the number. And I answer it, and she's like, "Hello, this is Dean Carolyn Wu." And I was like, "What? Why is the dean of the business school calling me, the spouse of a non-committed tenure track hire?" And she was just reaching out to let me know how much Notre Dame would love to have our family here at campus. And I'm such a big believer, and we talk about this in business a lot, that you can learn a lot about a person by the way they treat people when no one is watching, or when you're treating the person at the front desk, for example. And that to me was such a good testament to just the community here. So I would say that's one piece of it. It's just, I've had the opportunity to learn from really great people. The other thing I would say is that, and I know that you know this as well from working with our Notre Dame students, but I feel like, they're at the top of their class before they come to Notre Dame, and they, get accepted. And right now I think our acceptance rate is around 9%, which is just incredible. And then they get here and they kind of lose sight of the fact that they're exceptional, right? They're here for a reason. They have so many gifts, and they are a part of something much bigger than themselves. And so I just like the opportunity to remind them that they're awesome. And I would put stock in any one of them. Like that would pay off in dividends for investing in any one of these students. So I just love the opportunity to remind them that they're incredible people, and we're so lucky that they're a part of this family.
It's a beautiful investment in the students of Notre Dame. Thanks. It's awesome.
So you have won multiple teaching awards. Nate and I have won none. Zero.
Yeah.
Like maybe. I mean, who knows? Maybe this is the year. Come on. When you think about the award, and I'm not going to require you to make you toot your own horn. So we'll just do it for you.
Yes.
Because greatness is in our presence. But what do you think people are responding to when they recognize what it is that you've done as a distinguished professor?
Okay. Well, let me first of all address you two saying that you haven't won teaching awards. And I just wanted to ask if you're wrapping knuckles with rulers, because if you are, I would stop that.
That's
yeah,
good.
As an
Helpful tip.
education professor,
Tip
that is
one.
not a best
Tip one.
practice.
Yeah, not-
I can tell
not a
you.
best practice.
Okay, editor's note. Get rid of the rulers.
Yeah, I would say, I don't know, I would say asking the students, but it could be that, I'm in a teaching fewer classes than you both, or in a smaller program. I do, my approach to teaching is very much experiential. I really believe in learning by doing, and I think it affords students the opportunity to not just apply what they're learning and really kind of live our Notre Dame value of educating the hearts and minds, but it also gives them the opportunity to discern, right, and to try out different things and different roles. So I would say that would be one piece. A second piece I would say is that I feed them.
Okay.
And
That's good.
that really goes a long way. But I live on the south side of town, very close to Panera Bagel. And if you do not know, Tuesdays is half price bagel day. So I teach on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if we have a speaker coming in or like some milestone in the class, I will bring bagels in. And then also Corey and I love to host students at our home. So we'll have students over for dinner, or our most popular event is the s'mores night, where we have different themed s'mores, including the Elvis with bacon and peanut butter and dark chocolate. So yeah.
Okay,
so,
give me wait.
Yeah.
This is a foreign concept to
Yeah.
me in terms of, I understand the concept of s'more, but I did not realize that s'mores could be modified.
S'more.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what s'more man? Oh my gosh. Okay, top 3 s'mores. You got
Top
Elvis,
3
which
s'mores.
is a
Okay.
really impressive one.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I maybe missed banana, but it's banana, peanut butter, and bacon. On that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would say the second most popular one is the chocolate mint. So you have a chocolate with fresh mint leaves on the s'more with a chocolate graham cracker. I know.
With a chocolate graham
chocolate
cracker?
graham cracker. And then we also do one with fresh raspberries and a raspberry chocolate. But yeah.
That's really impressive.
Yeah. I have pictures I can share with
I've
you.
done it with the Reese's peanut butter cup, and I thought I was hot stuff.
Oh,
That is amazing. That's next level,
Yeah.
Wendy.
Yeah. Yep.
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
That's
there you
really
go. That's
impressive.
the secret.
Well, no. But like, to me, the food certainly helps. But what I found in terms of my interactions with students is that when you can show intentionality and pour into them in that way, and you clearly do this so graciously, it's transformative for them, because they do oftentimes struggle with the sense of like, maybe I just wasn't all that. Maybe I was a little bit too hyped up in my high school years, and I get here and you're swimming with other big fish,
Yeah.
and you begin to question what it is that you have to offer, and to have someone so powerfully invest in them and remind them of who they are and who they're called to be and how many people are depending on them is really transformative.
That's awesome.
But it's sufficient to say, though, that Notre Dame is better because you're here. And so thank you for all you do,
Thank
Wendy.
you.
Yeah.
And you as well.
So, Wendy, I heard that you once had students apply design thinking to improve the homiletic practices of priests. You got 2 right here.
Yes.
How can we learn from the design thinking process to be better preachers?
Let me just say those were not Holy Cross priests. Those were,
That's it. Thank you. That's yeah. Because I've never given a bad homily. Never.
that right?
Never.
Never.
No.
Good for you.
In the past
I
3
would
days.
say that is not actually true. It's something that we've joked about there's some opportunities, as there is for any type of interaction. But I would say I feel like as priests you're already kind of building into the design thinking foundation, which is empathy and really getting to know the individuals that you're serving. I was thinking, though, that some of the fun elements of design thinking, and if you guys want to do a project next year, let me know for innovation and design. But one of the frameworks that we use was developed by Clayton Christensen, who, rest in peace, but he was the father of disruptive innovation, and then really began focusing on this type of work later in his years at Harvard. But this notion around jobs to be done, and that everything that a person does, they're hiring it for a job to be done. So I was thinking about what people are hiring a homily to do for them, right? And just from my own reflection that, right now as a person who goes to a few different parishes, and just as a quick note, part of the reason that I ended up at St. Joe, where my children did, is because Father Nate was in my running group when I first moved here.
That's true.
And I did not know that Father Nate or Father John DeRiso were priests, and we would just be on runs. And then one night we went out for drinks, and they showed up in collars. I'm like, wait, what? Like, where can I, follow you two? And so that's how I ended up at St. Joe, and my children all went to school there because of them.
Wow.
But I would say, job to be done if you're going to St. Joe, really good for young families, at least for me as a young family. Right now, when we're taking our kids, a lot of times we'll go to Our Lady of Loretto and enjoy that. And if I really need some inspiration, just kicking off the teaching week, I will go to the law school mass with Father Bill Daly, who kind of, hones in and gets you kind of academically oriented through the homily. So,
That's great. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I've actually, that's great. I love that Christensen framework, and his student Michael Horn and Heather Staker do a lot of the work in my field. And it's really interesting. I love that idea of disruptive innovation and thinking. It's pretty awesome.
That's really cool. Okay, so we're coming to the last question here. It's arrived.
okay.
And it is this. It affords us the chance every time to ask the incredible guests that we've had on the PodQuad a piece of advice that they would offer. Something that you would say, hey, this is something worth thinking about as you go throughout the course of your day. And so with that, what would you like to share with PodQuad Nation?
All right. So what I would share, this is actually a vignette that I put up at the end of my Designing Your Life class in my Professor Choice lecture, but it's from author Dan Zadra, and it's, I'll paraphrase it a little bit, but when you reach the end of your life, do you want to be one of the people who wish they had, or be one of the people who are glad that they did?
Whoa.
And to live your life so that you not only just say that you stood for something, but that you acted on it, and have your inheritance be an example of how to live a full and meaningful life grounded in your values.
I think we call that a mic drop in a business. Professor Wendy Angst, thank you so very much.
Thank you both. What an honor to be here, and I'm so excited that I get to cross this off my life journey map. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, well, welcome to the last lap. We'll take a little look back at our conversation and talk about what struck us.
What got me going is truly the vision that she had for her life. Like, I don't know. I mean, I mentioned it in our conversation, like to have the courage to be able to like lay this thing out, look at a blank piece of paper and say, okay, when I'm in my 30s and my 40s and my 50s. But what I love about that is like the courage, the belief to like take your shot. And my sense is sometimes is that people are afraid. They don't necessarily appreciate or value the gifts that they have within themselves. They sometimes doubt themselves in a way that they think, well, maybe I'm not as good as whomever. And as a result, I'm just going to stay here and not actually pursue what really has been placed on my heart and mind. Yeah. And so for Professor Angst to do that in such a beautiful way and to take these moments of her life and say, you know what? This is an opportunity now for me to pursue this thing that I've had placed on my heart, and to do it. And it might not unfold in the exact way that I think it was going to unfold, but at the same time, to see that on-ramp and to take it with gusto, I just think is so inspiring.
Yeah. She's just not afraid to do the hard things in order to achieve those goals, too. I mean, even when she was just talking that short-term, how long it takes to get to Uganda.
Right?
She just sees that, like, no, this is worth it. This is worth it. And I love the way that she's believed in students, their vision of helping out this important work in Uganda of St. Bakhita School to make it sustainable, to make it really transformative for their students and for ours, which I think is really incredible. I just really appreciate the way that she has just been so thoughtful in a bunch of different ways in building up our students.
Yep.
I love how she talked about the way that our students kind of go from being the big fish in a little pond to a little fish in a big pond, and the scariness of that, and the way that she just really tries to empower and help them believe in the dignity of the human person, their dignity as a beloved child of God. Like, I think that is critically important. And she talked about literally investing in these students. And I think like that is so important. You do this all the time in campus ministry. I see it. And it's so cool to see. And we try to do this in our dorms, right? To invest in students and to help them, especially when they don't believe in themselves and can't find their own, North Star, to point them to Christ, to point them to the gift of serving others, of thinking less about themselves and more about using their gifts at the service of the kingdom. And I just think the way that she does that, especially for young women at Notre Dame, is totally awesome. And she's had great mentors in her life, and she's mentoring other people.
That's right.
I think that's an incredible gift to our community.
Yep. There's the old African proverb: if you want to get there fast, go alone. If you want to go farther, go together. And to think about how is it that we can make sure that we're investing in people so that we can get to the place, heaven, together. Yeah,
I love that. Well, thanks very much, and thanks for joining us on the Pod Quad today with Professor Wendy Angst. Thank you, God bless you, and we'll see you on the quad.